Hello everyone, this is Randy here. I'm spending the weekend at the cottage. It's a beautiful August afternoon, and I've been thinking about a little thought experiment this weekend. So I wanted to share it with you guys and see what you think. So the question I asked myself was, what if humans lived alongside dinosaurs? Now, I can tell you that I've always been quite fascinated by dinosaurs, even as a little kid. There's something just really fascinating about these creatures. I had a lot of dinosaur toys growing up. I was an avid academic scholar, if you will. Now, it's hard to describe yourself as an academic scholar as a 6-year-old, but I was an avid academic scholar of dinosaurs. I was obsessed with them. I wanted to read everything I could and learn everything I could about them. In fact, at one point, I took out all of the dinosaur books at the local library. Every single one. I took all of them out. I was actually banned by the librarian for from taking out additional dinosaur books because I had the entire library's dinosaur book collection at home. I was actually banned by the librarian. She said to me, "You can't take out any more dinosaur books. You have to save some of them for other people." That's how obsessed I was with dinosaurs when I was growing up. I remember that I wanted to at one point be a paleontologist. Of course, as a young kid, I didn't know the word paleontology, but I just knew I wanted to dig up dinosaur bones and study dinosaurs. That, of course, eventually, that desire eventually dissipated, and I became a lawyer. Very different from a paleontologist. But at one point, as a little kid, I wanted to be a swashbuckling paleontologist, discovering new dinosaurs, making an impact. So this is my best attempt at making a dinosaur video. And the hypothetical is, what if dinosaurs lived alongside humans? So I'm not approaching this video from a creationist standpoint. I'm not arguing from some biblical standpoint that we actually lived alongside dinosaurs, right? There are certain people out there who believe in that. I'm not one of them. So that's not the standpoint I'm taking. I'm not saying that we actually lived with the dinosaurs. And I'm not taking a Jurassic Park approach either. In this hypothetical, I'm not saying that we're going to take dinosaurs from the past and present them by way of some type of scientific miracle to the present public and use them for entertainment. So I'm not giving a Jurassic Park scenario. I'm not saying that we're going to take some dinosaur DNA and clone dinosaurs today. So that's what I'm not saying that either. What I'm saying is, imagine a scenario where humans and dinosaurs evolve side by side. In an actual timeline, in an actual historic timeline where humans and dinosaurs actually evolve side by side and they coexist. So in today's video, I'm going to explain the mechanism as to how that could be possible, right? I'll explain the mechanics of how that actually could be possible, humans and dinosaurs evolving if history were to change, and we lived in a slightly different reality. So I'd explain that first. Then I'm going to talk about 3 different implications of dinosaurs coexisting with humans. And the 3 implications, number 1 is this theory of shared dominance. Number 2, the theory of domestication. And number 3, what I call evolutionary convergence. So I'm going to talk about these 3 particular possibilities, scenarios maybe instead of theories, 3 possible scenarios that I would talk about later on in this video as to what could have happened if dinosaurs lived alongside humans. So first of all, let me explain the mechanics of this co-evolutionary trajectory. Now, as we know, dinosaurs first came to be, or first arrived on the planet at around 245 million years ago, in a period known as the Triassic period. And the Triassic period was one of 3 periods within a larger period of time known as the Mesozoic. So the Mesozoic comprises of the Triassic, the Jurassic, and the Cretaceous periods. So this forms the Mesozoic epoch. So dinosaurs around, give and take, right? 245 million years ago, they arrive on the Earth. They arise in the Jurassic period. They flourish. They arise during the Triassic period. They flourish during the Jurassic period, and then they flourish during the Cretaceous period until the very end. So this is 65 million years ago, at the end of the Cretaceous period. Unfortunately for our dear friends, the dinosaurs, there is a meteorite that slams into the Earth, and it lands near the Yucatan Peninsula, near the modern-day Gulf of Mexico, creating a gigantic explosion of unimaginable proportions. Many times the strength of the nuclear bomb that was dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Plumes of debris and smoke and all types of things are lifted into the air. A giant tsunami occurs, a humongous explosion. And what scientists believe is that the initial impact obviously killed many of the dinosaurs. The impact itself, the tsunami, the impact of the meteorite hitting the Earth, and then the debris, the smoke, the stuff that was lifted into the air as a result of this meteorite hitting the Earth, that blocked out the sun. So all of this debris went into the air and became part of the atmosphere for many years. And it blocked out the sun without adequate sunlight. Unfortunately for our poor friends, the dinosaurs, they eventually died out. So that was around 65 million years ago. So they had 3 very successful reigns: Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous, and boom, a sudden death for our dinosaurs, a surprising and unceremonious end to these group of very wondrous and beautiful creatures. But there is a silver lining. Another group of creatures known as mammals, of which myself and you watching today are part of this group. Mammals, they came to reign supreme. Mammals developed, first, arose around 200 million years ago. So mammals actually coexisted with dinosaurs. They were very small at the time. They looked like little rodents, little mice and small little creatures. Obviously not modern mice or rats, but they were small, scavengy creatures. They occupied certain ecological niches, but could never really spread their wings, metaphorically speaking, right? They could never really truly occupy the big ecological niches, being the apex predators or the big herbivores. They were small, scavenger type creatures. And suddenly, with the dinosaurs gone, the mammals, who couldn't for about 140, 150 million years, couldn't make much of a name for themselves. They suddenly were left with the planet. The planet was bequeathed to these mammals, who suddenly found themselves in a situation of vast opportunity. And they certainly took advantage of this vast opportunity. These mammals propagated, speciated, and dominated. And these mammals from 65 million years ago developed into all kinds of different creatures, of which one group of apes, known as the hominids, they developed around 6 to 7 million years ago, give and take, with some standard deviation, of course. But these bipedal apes, known as the hominids, eventually arose, and then they led to us, right? If you look at then the timeline of the hominids, Lucy, the famous Australopithecus afarensis, she was found in Africa around 3 million years ago, right? So she was bipedal. So there's certainly already evidence of bipedalism, bipedal being walking on 2 feet. And so you had Lucy, which is a much older ancestor of modern Homo sapiens. And they're not our species, but they're bipedal apes. They weren't very large. They were just a couple feet, but no, they were walking on 2 feet. These apes, not as intelligent as we are, but the famous fossil of Lucy was found in Africa, and she was about 3 million years old, more or less. And then archaic Homo sapiens, so anatomically similar to us, our present Homo sapiens, present humans, they came around more or less, and there's some debate about this, so these numbers are approximations, but more or less 300 million years ago. Modern, I wouldn't say modern, but archaic, like anatomically similar or more or less the same, archaic Homo sapiens 300 million years ago. And then modern Homo sapiens, and there's some debate about this as well, they came around later. In the book Sapiens by the great author Noah Harari, he writes that there was a cognitive revolution happening somewhere between 70 to 30,000 years ago. So 70 to 30,000 years ago, there was something called what he coins the cognitive revolution. So this is where the Homo sapiens, right, our great ancestors, developed language skills, developed large frontal cortexes, or cortex. So is the plural of cortex cortexes? Maybe I'm making up words here, but frontal lobes, right? We became smart, logical, and as a result, we became dominant. We were more apt at using tools. Our language skills increased. We were able to communicate. Maybe we were able to coordinate in tribes and function successfully. So modern humans really developed from this period of time that Harari calls the cognitive revolution. This revolution that happened to the biology of our brains, and as a result of the cognitive revolution, we became us, right? Our modern Homo sapiens, the right now, the ones walking the earth. So the mechanism by which Homo sapiens and dinosaurs could have lived side by side is that perhaps something happens 65 million years ago where the dinosaurs don't completely die. Maybe the asteroid misses the Earth, right? Or the meteorite, it misses the Earth. Or maybe it hits the Earth, but some of it burns up in the atmosphere. Or maybe it wasn't that large, or there's some, maybe where it hits in the Earth, maybe that matters. Instead of hitting the Yucatan Peninsula, maybe it hits somewhere else that has less of an impact. And as a result, perhaps some dinosaurs died, but others exist. Enough of them die that in some regions of the world, the mammals are able to dominate. But not enough of them die that they go entirely extinct. So there's this middle ground scenario where the mammals are able to rise up, take their rightful place in the ecological web, but the dinosaurs are still around. The old guard, right? The veterans, they're like, we're not done yet. We still have our place in the world, and that has to do probably with this meteorite, right? How it hits, where it hits, the size of this meteorite. That's my best anticipated suggestion as to how this could happen. And in this world, the dinosaurs and the humans exist alongside each other. I will note, in terms of what the world would have looked like at the time, at the late Cretaceous, 65 million years ago, the supercontinent Pangaea had already split up by then, right? So the world was not one continent. Pangaea had already split up, and the continents would have looked more or less a little bit similar to where they are now in terms of their orientation in the world. You know, North America, South America, Africa, Asia, Europe, Australia. Obviously not exactly the same orientation because it was 65 million years ago. And as you guys know, with the movement of tectonic plates, the continents shift, right? So this would have been an orientation of the world. That certainly wouldn't be how our world would look today, but 65 million years ago, it was close. You know, closer, not close, but closer. And certainly the supercontinent Pangaea had already split up by this time. So it's very possible that there would be groups of dinosaurs living in one part of the world, isolated from humans. Oh, sorry, not humans. We're not there yet. Take a step back. Take a step back. For 65 million years ago, groups of dinosaurs living in certain parts of the world, isolated and separated by oceans, and then mammals being dominated or were being dominant and developing, their dominance of other parts of the world. So, for example, this is just hypothetical. The meteorite hits a certain part of the world. It destroys, for example, dinosaurs in North America and South America, right? Yeah, but it's a localized destruction of these dinosaurs, and the mammals manage to dominate North America, South America. But there's enough separation by way of the ocean that the dinosaurs still exist in Europe, Asia, and Africa, right? Just one scenario where the mammals and the dinosaurs don't exist in the same places. They have separate spheres of influence, and then eventually, for some reason, in the future, they meet up, or through the movement of the continents, or through maybe the Bering Strait, or some bridge of ice, or something happens, or Australia crashes into or was it India that crashes into India crashes into Asia. I'm not too sure if this has happened yet, but something happens with the tectonic plates, or with natural phenomenon where the dinosaurs and the mammals, by movement of the tectonic plates, eventually meet. But for millions of years, they have their separate spheres of influence, and they are able to evolve and continue to exist on the same planet, but just in different spheres of influence. This, I think, would be the most likely scenario where mammals, and then advanced mammals like us, could arise alongside a world where dinosaurs also happen to exist. So that's the mechanism. I will also note that the dinosaurs that would exist today in 2024, and right now it's August 2024, would probably look a little bit different from the dinosaurs that existed at the late Cretaceous, 65 million years ago. This is a little bit confusing when you go to a museum, and all the dinosaurs, the museums, when they display dinosaur fossils and bones, they give the impression they all lived at the same time, which is not true, because they're just in the same room. Now, to be technical here, a dinosaur like Stegosaurus didn't exist at the same time period as, for example, Triceratops, right? Stegosaurus with those big spines on his back, he existed in the Jurassic period, where Triceratops existed in the Cretaceous, right? Brachiosaurus, for example, a long-necked sauropod, right? These long-necked dinosaurs are called sauropods. I'm just using the gender he, just for argument's sake. He existed in the Jurassic period, right? And then Tyrannosaurus Rex existed in the Cretaceous. So they would not have met, because they would have been existing in different periods of time, millions of years apart. A Tyrannosaurus would never have met a Brachiosaurus or a Stegosaurus. A Triceratops would have never met a Stegosaurus, right? So they would not have existed in the same time period. And so by way of example, the dinosaurs existing, say, in 2024, in this example where dinosaurs don't go extinct, would have probably looked a little bit different. But we wouldn't have really known what they would have looked like, but certainly they would have had another 65 million years to evolve, and that's a tantalizing scenario to think of. Okay, are we clear about that? We live in a world where humans still evolve, right? We still become humans in this world. The hominids still evolve. They, Australopithecus afarensis still comes to be. Homo sapiens still come to be, right? Everything happens in the same evolutionary way. Like modern Homo sapiens, we still go through the cognitive revolution. We exist, and the dinosaurs in this world also exist, right? They also exist. They co-evolve and they coexist. And now we're existing, side by side. So that's the setup. That's the mechanics of what's happening. Now, the three scenarios. As I said, the number one scenario is shared dominance. Number two scenario is domestication. And number three scenario, we're going to talk about evolutionary convergence. Okay, so the first scenario is that as a result of dinosaurs and humans living side by side, they, being much bigger than us, become our main predators, right? So we're hunted in this scenario. In fact, we are pretty small relative to the dinosaurs. If you think of, say, a Tyrannosaurus Rex or something like that running around, we don't have much of a chance. Now we have fire and stone tools in this scenario, but the dinosaurs are way too big, right? So we're predominantly prey. Now, we also can act as hunters. So we will hunt and go after most likely herbivores, right? Maybe a slow-moving herd of Triceratops. We can hunt the weak ones, surround it, capture it, and we would also hunt dinosaurs. Most likely, the easier way to get protein and food for humans in this scenario would be to go after dinosaur eggs, right? So dinosaurs lay eggs, and that would be a very big source of protein for us, and they laid many eggs. So hunting, well, I guess not hunting, but gathering and in effect stealing eggs would be one way where we could get protein and food. We could fight and try to hunt and kill dinosaurs. We could scavenge. It's a little bit nasty, but throughout history, Homo sapiens, especially in earlier times when we were hunter-gatherers, we scavenged, right? Dead bodies. Now, one dinosaur kills another dinosaur. Tyrannosaurus Rex kills a Triceratops. That's a hunk of meat, right? The Tyrannosaurus is not going to eat all of the carcass of the Triceratops. We come in, we swoop in as Homo sapiens, and we get the rest, right? Second best, sloppy seconds, right? We're not as cool as the Tyrannosaurus, not as big, but we're able to feed ourselves. So we have this shared dominance. This is what we call shared dominance, right? What I call shared dominance. So we coexist. They can't wipe us out. We haven't gone extinct. The dinosaurs haven't wiped us out, but we exist as hunter-gatherers. Often we're hunted. Sometimes we hunt. We steal their eggs. We scavenge. We live in caves. We have fire. We're able to hold them off, but we're not able to eliminate or dominate them. They're just too big, too powerful. Now, there's actually an implication to this, which is, these big and powerful beings roaming the world, is that we actually never become an agrarian society in this particular scenario. We never become farmers. We never have an agricultural revolution. Instead, we stay as hunter-gatherers. And I'll tell you why. Imagine there are these very, very large animals running around. Like, can you imagine yourself staying in one place without moving and trying to farm the land and not have that land be disrupted by a very large predator? Or perhaps you and your life and your family being irrevocably disturbed and changed by these large predators who may eat you and your family. Right, one of the reasons that humans were able to become agrarian people, become farmers and stay in one place, become sedentary, because for hundreds of thousands of years we were hunter-gatherers, but then we became sedentary. We started to live in the same place and farm particular crops. We were able to do that mostly because we wiped out all of the big megafauna, which meant that the big saber-toothed tigers, the woolly mammoths. And around the time of the Ice Age, and after, we wiped all of them out. We hunted them, and we pushed them to extinction. At least that's one of the predominant theories. There's obviously other theories as to why they went extinct, maybe climate change and other factors. But I think you would be a fool to say that humans didn't have an impact on the death and the extinction of the saber-toothed tiger and the woolly mammoth and the giant sloth. We lived alongside these large mammals, these megafauna, these very large animals, and we essentially over thousands of years we eliminated them. Right, we made it difficult for them to reproduce. So we hunted them down, and we pushed them out of their natural habitat, further and further away from fertile ground, and we eliminated them. And perhaps it's a bit easier to eliminate a saber-toothed tiger in a hunting band of 20 with spears and torches, and maybe with a hunting band of 30 you can take down a woolly mammoth. But can you take down a Tyrannosaurus rex? Right? Can you take down a huge sauropod, a long-necked dinosaur that's the size of a blue whale, if not larger? Right? Could we have the I'm gonna make a World of Warcraft comment here. Like, this is like a raid, right? You imagine everyone in your guild raiding the final boss, right? And the final boss is some humongous dragon. It's like that. And you may not be able to defeat the final boss because the final boss is too damn fat, right? Too damn big, too damn fat. It's a big Tyrannosaurus. We never managed to wipe him out, right? It's a big dinosaur, and it's gonna eat us. And in this scenario, we just never managed. We never managed to wipe out all the big megafauna, right? And you can't be a farmer, you can't be a person living in a sedentary lifestyle if you don't wipe out the big megafauna, right? Especially the predatory ones, because they're going to come and eat you. And even if you don't wipe out the big herbivores, they may come and eat your plants and your crop. So you have to wipe them out in order to stay in one place. So in this scenario, the agrarian revolution never happens. But doesn't mean that we don't share the planet with the dinosaurs. In fact, there's some equilibrium, right? The Homo sapiens have the cognitive revolution. We're able to use language. We're able to use tools. We're still smart, and we're not maybe the most dominant species on the planet because we have to share with Tyrannosaurus. But we reach a tense equilibrium with the rest of nature. We're not able to be the big boy on the planet, but we're able to exist, to hold our own. They're not wiping us out, but we're not able to wipe them out because they're just too big and too ferocious. So that's one scenario where we coexist in this world of shared dominance, and we never become farmers. And as a result of not having the agrarian revolution, the industrial revolution never happens, right? Urbanization doesn't happen. Human history is changed forever, and in 2024, in this particular scenario, we are still hunter-gatherers. We never move out from the way that we've lived for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. We continue to be hunter-gatherers, fishing, hunting, spears and torches and stone tools and some wooden tools, and that's it. And perhaps that's a better world, right? Given the environmental issues we're going through right now, and the way that we've destroyed our planet, maybe that's not a bad thing. So that's the first scenario: shared dominance, where we maintain our status as hunter-gatherers, and we have this tense coexistence with the dinosaurs who still roam the world. Second scenario, and I think this is the more likely scenario. Second scenario is domestication. So in this scenario, after the cognitive revolution, we are able to have enough tools, enough intelligence to hunt the big game. We go after Tyrannosaurus rex and we kick his ass, right? Tyrannosaurus versus humans, no problem. We trap him, we hunt him, we destroy him. We destroy his children, we destroy his family, we destroy his species, right? We're mean, lean hunting machines. Homo sapiens represent. That's what we do. right? Hundreds of Homo sapiens band together with their spears. We go after the big dinosaurs. We kill them. We eat them for meat. We drag it back to our camp. We have a big fire and we celebrate. We destroy the megafauna. This happens over thousands of years, of course, but we destroy the megafauna in the world. Oh, the big creatures, they're gone. The smaller ones, maybe we have little velociraptors running around or smaller dinosaurs, we domesticate them. Well, what do I mean by that? So we capture them, and in essence, we enslave them. In the same way that we did that in our own world with the animals, right? With horses and cows and sheep. We capture the wild versions of these animals. We domesticated them. We, in essence, enslaved them. And then exploited them for food, for labor, for their skin. We exploit them. So in this scenario, dinosaurs are no different from the animals we have in our present day world in terms of how we treat them. So we start with using them as beasts of burden, right? So instead of having a horse, we have a triceratops that's plowing our field, or instead of an ox, we have a stegosaurus, or a particular dinosaur that is working the land, tilling the land, cultivating. Instead of riding a horse into battle, we domesticate particular dinosaurs, maybe those bone-headed ones with those big bulgy bone heads. We're riding them into battle. They become our steed. So the medieval knights, instead of riding horses, we ride bone-headed dinosaurs, knocking each other down and jousting in this different world, right? We use them for food, right? We exploit them for their meat, delicious dinosaur burgers and dinosaur steak. We use them for their eggs, for sure. So instead of chickens, maybe we're cultivating, growing, and farming smaller avian dinosaurs. As you know, the non-avian dinosaurs are the ones you normally think of, but the avian dinosaurs are the ones that actually became birds. So in that sense, it would not be very different from the way that we farm chickens. So the avian dinosaurs, right, the bird dinosaurs, the ones with the feathers, we farm them. We farm them for their eggs. We farm them for their meat. There's entire industries that we developed based off dinosaur produce. So we farm these dinosaurs. With domestication comes another group of implications. One is disease, because when you're living close to animals, there's a trading of disease. It's called a zoonotic jump. When viruses, for example, jump from animals to humans. We saw that with at least one possible way that the 2020 pandemic started was by way of a zoonotic jump from certain animals. For example, a pangolin in the Wuhan wet market. There's of course the other theory that it was from a science lab and it escaped. Who knows? Nobody really knows. But a zoonotic jump was theorized to have been behind the reason the 2022 pandemic happened, centered around a Wuhan wet market. And certainly the theory behind the Spanish flu of 1919 was that it came from chickens, perhaps, in the United States. That's one of the theories, that there was a zoonotic jump, that the diseases from these animals jumped to humans. So similarly, once we domesticate the dinosaurs in this scenario, we get dinosaur diseases, right? So we coexist with them, the good and the bad. We're farming them, we're using them for meat, we're using them for their skin, for leather. Dinosaur leather becomes perhaps a luxury good, or maybe necessary. We have the avian dinosaurs with their feathers, which we are using, and we're perhaps using the feathers for capes and clothes, something like that, and we're using the feathers for our needs. Another element of domestication would be pets. So we would have maybe little velociraptors that we would domesticate. We would keep them as pets. So instead of cats and dogs, imagine the scenario where we have little velociraptors as pets, and we keep them around as little pets. Okay, just give me 1 second. Sorry, what's going on? Okay, can I keep filming? Now? Okay. I'm just in the middle of the video though. Okay. And we are back, everyone watching at home. Sorry about that. So I had checked into an Airbnb, which in the future, if you're watching this, an Airbnb is essentially a short-term rental for the cottage over the weekend. And we were supposed to check out in the early afternoon, but I had been filming in the late afternoon, so so we actually had to leave the property physically, and that's why I couldn't finish filming in that little backyard area with a nice view of the lake, because we were literally kicked out of that property because it was already getting close to about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'll continue the video here. I should note that I made a bit of a mistake earlier on in the video when I said that archaic Homo sapiens came around 300 million years ago. That was just a slip of the tongue. That's not true. Archaic Homo sapiens came around 300,000. So I'll repeat that, 300,000 years ago, not 300 million, 300,000 years ago was when archaic Homo sapiens first arose on this planet. And the cognitive revolution, obviously, was somewhere between 70,000 to 30,000 years ago. So I just wanted to make that clarification in case you were wondering why the timelines were a little bit wonky. So where was I? I was talking about pets. I was talking about domestication and velociraptors as pets. So that's, again, one of the aspects of domestication that could potentially occur as a result of the domestication of dinosaurs. So if we were to fast track the process of domestication, what would that look like today? Well, the dinosaurs would essentially be the animals that we have. They're the animals that we're used to, and they would substitute many of the mammals and birds that we would otherwise have domesticated. So the world today would not look very different, with the exception that we would obviously have very different looking animals, right? So we would still have factory farms with dinosaurs instead of sheep and cows and pigs, the animals that we put through these factory farms. We would have dinosaurs instead of these animals. We would have perhaps certain zoos with dinosaurs. So instead of our animals that we have nowadays in zoos, we would have some exotic dinosaurs that we would keep in zoos for the entertainment of humans. We would most likely have perhaps some wildlife reserves. In this scenario, obviously humans have domesticated the animals and therefore are now the sole rulers of the planet. We have no rivals. We would have perhaps preserve some areas of the world left for these dinosaurs to live. So that would essentially be the closest thing to the movie Jurassic Park, where we would have, for essentially preservation and conservation purposes, partially for entertainment, we would keep some of these dinosaurs alive in their natural habitat, as the humans have now dominated the entire globe. Some other implications of domestication is that humans and dinosaurs would live alongside each other, so that would certainly influence culture and perhaps even religion to a certain extent. If you think of all of the animals that we currently have in terms of our images, in terms of our symbolism, that would be turned on its head. So I'll give you an example. Greek mythology, right? Animals are featured quite prominently in Greek mythology. But if we lived alongside dinosaurs, then maybe Zeus, the king of the gods in Greek mythology, instead of transforming into a bull to have sexual relations with Europa, he transforms into a velociraptor, or he transforms into a swan to have sexual relations with Leda. Maybe he transforms into a pterodactyl or something similar in that particular scenario. The medieval knight St. George fights a giant dragon on a horse. So in a scenario where we live alongside dinosaurs, then maybe he's not fighting a dragon, maybe he's riding on a dragon-like creature, because that would be closer in morphology to a dinosaur. And maybe in that particular scenario, he's fighting a giant, monstrous horse, right? The imagery goes backwards. So he's not fighting a dragon on a horse, he's on a dragon fighting a giant horse. This is all, speculation, but tantalizing thoughts as to the imagery and culture and religion. The lions, for example, at Trafalgar Square in London, these giant, beautiful lion statues, lions being a symbol of royalty, symbol of power. Maybe that would be different. Maybe they would be Triceratops or Stegosaurus or Ankylosaurus or something else. They would be dinosaurs that would be the symbol of power and of royalty. Very, very possible if we lived alongside them, and especially if we domesticated them. And of course, country flags, right? The flag of Albania, for example, is that of an eagle. So perhaps in the future, not in the future, but in this alternate reality, the flag of Albania is not an eagle, but it's an Archaeopteryx, right? A winged dinosaur instead would be the national flag of Albania. So we have all of these very interesting implications. Sports teams being another implication. Toronto Raptors obviously would be a standout in that we have a team of a sports team with a dinosaur name, but I think you would certainly have more dinosaur themed sports teams. So instead of having the Rams or having the Penguins or whatever, the Wolves, you would have different species of dinosaurs in sports, in popular culture. You would have TV shows about dinosaurs. Maybe the Discovery Channel would have more Secret Life of Dinosaurs, and then obviously movies with secret lives of dinosaur pets. It would just be part of our popular culture, but in this reality, in this alternate reality, we wouldn't see that as any different, because they would be the dominant animals that we would have domesticated, and the dominant animals we would have interactions with. So we would just view that as being very, very normal. Okay, so wrapping up domestication, where again, ultimately it just leads to dinosaurs ultimately replacing the mammals and birds and animals that we did in fact domesticate in our reality. Leaving that aside, the third topic, the third scenario that's possible where humans and dinosaurs live side by side is what I call evolutionary convergence. So what happens here is, in this scenario, the dinosaurs and the humans, they don't reach an equilibrium like the first scenario where they're hunting us and we're trying to survive. We don't domesticate them. We don't become the dominant species on the planet. We don't subject them to slavery and subjugate them to being beasts of burden and sources of food. In this scenario, there's actually an evolutionary convergence in that as the hominids are evolving and becoming bipedal, the dinosaurs, they're also evolving and becoming bipedal. So I remembered in this book I read a long time ago, again, you remember that I borrowed all these books from the library on dinosaurs. There was a picture that really had an impact on me, which is a bipedal dinosaur that, had dinosaurs been given an extra 65 million years, they wouldn't look the way that they would have looked like. The Velociraptor maybe would have developed a very intelligent frontal cortex, a very large frontal cortex. Maybe it was already bipedal, but its tail would have shortened, it would have become, more bipedal, and it would look more or less humanoid, right? So we would have a humanoid looking dinosaur but still the look of a dinosaur, but a humanoid version of a dinosaur with a very large brain, perhaps with opposable thumbs and digits and the ability to manipulate tools. So in this third scenario, we have evolutionary convergence in that the evolution of the hominids going from apes to intelligent bipedal homo sapiens, that converges with the evolution of dinosaurs that actually become intelligent. So whatever evolutionary factors were pushing hominids to become more intelligent, right? We talked about this cognitive evolution or revolution that happened between 70 to 30,000 years ago. Whatever happened, whatever whatever environmental circumstances that led to the rise of highly intelligent humans, Homo sapiens, those environmental factors also apply to dinosaurs. Whatever led to our ape ancestors becoming our current versions of themselves, which is intelligent Homo sapiens, that also happens to dinosaurs. They become intelligent and they coexist not as large lumbering giants, but they coexist as very intelligent, more or less our size, hominid-looking or humanoid-looking creatures. And this is not necessarily all that far-fetched, because at one point in our history as hominids, we actually coexisted with many other hominids. We coexist, for example, with other intelligent hominids, including the Neanderthals, who died out at the end of the Ice Age. Some say that it was because of Homo sapiens. We pushed them out and we either bred them out, or we hunted them, or we fought them, or we had wars with them, or we ensured that they lost their habitat by way of our dominance. And that's one theory. Who knows why they died out? But for many thousands of years, we were certainly not the only hominid walking the earth, right? Homo sapiens coexisted with other intelligent hominids, the Neanderthals being one of them. There was a new discovery of a species or a subspecies, kind of Denisovians, that were discovered. I think part of a tooth was discovered either in Russia or somewhere in Asia, where there was a new subspecies. If you remember in school, the tree of evolution, right? You have all of these branches, Homo erectus, Homo ergaster, Homo this, Homo that. You have all of these branches of hominids, some of whom died out. Was it Homo robustus was one of them, or was that Australopithecus robustus? I don't remember, but there's different branches of hominids. Correct me in the comments. I don't have this tree memorized, but you know what I'm talking about, the visual, right? You have all of these branches of a very complex web, a very complex family tree of different hominids, intelligent hominids who could use tools, who had access to fire, who had language. We know the Neanderthals had access to fire. We know that they had language. We know that at least some evidence that they buried their dead, so there was perhaps some spiritual beliefs. So they were one of our rivals in the world, and they were intelligent. So, and that actually happened. In this alternate scenario, it's very plausible that the dinosaurs would have developed their own version of intelligent hominoid creatures. And that would be a really fascinating reality, to have two species live side by side, equally intelligent, equally inventing things, equally agrarian, right? Perhaps they would also have an agrarian revolution where, like us, they would settle on the land. Obviously, they would eat different things, but they would also develop cities. They would develop culture. They would develop religion, language, communication styles, and we would trade with them. Sometimes we would have wars with them. Perhaps we would fight them. Perhaps we would intermingle and try to breed with them. Maybe there would be human-dinosaur hybrids, intermarriages, Romeo and Juliet stories. We know from evidence that humans and Neanderthals certainly bred, or at least attempted to breed, based on the evidence from both the fossil evidence and also the fact that some of our genetics, some of our genes, especially with respect to our genes that relate to immunology, or not immunology, but our immune system, they apparently come from the Neanderthals. And so there was some interbreeding that happened between humans and Neanderthals. Some of it was consensual, maybe some of it was not consensual, right? Maybe there was a little bit of forced breeding that happened between humans and Neanderthals way back in the day. So potentially there would be some attempts to breed humans and intelligent dinosaurs, either voluntarily or involuntarily in this different world. Maybe that would happen. Maybe we would fight. Maybe we would try to extinguish each other, or maybe we would reach some type of equilibrium. But it's not too far-fetched to imagine a world where we are not the only intelligent species. Because at one point in the world, that was actually the case when the Neanderthals lived alongside humans, and we competed for the same resources. So that would be the third scenario. In terms of dinosaur culture, dinosaur technology, dinosaur preferences, who knows? I mean, I leave that for you to speculate what the world would look like if dinosaurs built their own cities, if the dinosaurs had, you know, their own modes of transportation, their own writing, and their own, you know, their own thing going on, and we had our thing and they had our thing, their thing. My girlfriend who's filming this video right now is laughing because I think she thinks it's really funny. What do you think of this idea about dinosaurs and humans coexisting as intelligent species on the planet? You can answer.
I think if the wrong person listens to this, they're gonna use this to justify the lizard people.
Oh, okay. So you think there's a lizard people implication in the video? Okay. Well, I wasn't thinking about the lizard people. But
I just think it would be funny.
I think it'll be funny too. So that would be maybe that's true. Maybe there are lizard people. So I conclude.
Oh no, it's a conspiracy.
I know it's a conspiracy theory. Okay. I conclude by stating that thank you for joining me in this little weekend thought experiment. I hope I've tickled your imagination a little bit on the different scenarios of humans coexisting with dinosaurs and what that would look like. I hope I've given you a little bit of education as to how this could happen in terms of the mechanism of how humans and dinosaurs could potentially live together. Of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to come out with new videos periodically. I hope you enjoyed my content. I hope you enjoyed my format of presenting this information to you. And I hope to see all of you in the next video.